So this is going to be the first session. The title I have already indicated in here, Introduction to Animal Behavior and Basic Behavioral Patterns. Introduction to Animal Behavior and Basic Behavioral Patterns. So, as usual, as we did in our evolutionary biology lecture sessions, now I have indicated here the topics that I am going to discuss under the session 1. I'll tell you what is meant by animal behavior, and then very briefly, the schedule of lectures, what we are going to learn throughout this course unit. And I'll tell you about the brief history of ethology. Ethology is the scientific study of animal behavior. And I'll tell you about some basic behavioral patterns as well. Kinesis, taxis, reflexes, and fixed action patterns. So those are the things that we are going to discuss today. Of course, fixed action pattern is a big one, so I will save it for tomorrow, right? Okay, let's begin our journey then. Now, I'm showing you some photographs in here. What you see is a dog urinating at a car tire. You have seen all these things, haven't you? Now, I'll tell you, when I go home, now I have 2 dogs at home, one Labrador, a girl, and a German Shepherd, boy, right? The boy, immediately after I park the vehicle in the garage, what he does is that he comes and sniffs around and urinates at all the 4 wheels. That is what it does, right? Then the following morning, I come to the university, and you have seen that there are many dogs in here, no? In the university premises as well. So these dogs run into my car, sniff at the tires, and they also urinate on the tires. And I go back home in the afternoon. Again, our Rocky comes, and then urinates on top of it. So the question is, why do the dogs do this? And it is their behavior. Why do they do that? Now I'm showing you another photograph, the lower one. You see what a cat is defecating. Usually, have you seen what the cats do after defecation? Can anyone of you tell? Okay, as usual. Sonali, what do they do?
I have no idea.
You have no idea. Then Kalindu, you have a cat at home, no?
I hate cats.
You hate cats. Okay.
I think they are marking the limits, like they are seema like that.
Okay, right. Okay. So immediately after defecation, what do the cats do?
I have no idea, but
right. Now the second photograph here, it shows that the cat covers the feces. It scratches, and then somehow it covers the feces, and then it goes. Again, the question is, why do the cats do that? Now, we can offer many different explanations for this cat's behavior. For example, perhaps the cat might think, you think, right? Many people think. The cat might think, well, there are small children in this house. So it is now, the cat thinks, right? Now, my feces is so smelly, stink, right? So it is not good if I put them uncovered, keep them uncovered, because if unfortunately they come and step on it, and the feces would be on their feet, and that is somewhat disgusting to them. So I cover it. That's one way of explaining. Do you understand this? But that is, of course, not the actual reason for that. That is not the reason. There is a reason. We will learn about these things in due course. So I am showing you here in these two instances, I have told you some behavioral patterns, how animals behave. And we also have unique behavioral patterns. Now, when we speak, we make some gestures, hand gestures. We make our eyes a little bit bigger, right? And sometimes we speak slowly and sometimes we speak loud. They are our behavior. And when we look at other people, young people, right? I also used to do that when I was young. When I see some girls passing, I usually look at them. I know that they also look at us. Those days we had a lot of hair, full head of hair those days, right? So that is our behavior. I'll show you some interesting photographs in the future about our behavior, right? So we are going to learn about the behavior of animals in this lecture session, in this entire course unit. So we have to find a definition for animal behavior. What is animal behavior? There are so many definitions. So many definitions. Now, as you see, the Oxford English Dictionary defines animal behavior as the way that somebody behaves, especially towards other people. That's a very common, a very simple definition. Animal behavior is the way that somebody behaves, especially towards other people. Now, it does not say anything about other animals. But animals, they also have their behavioral patterns, isn't it? So this general definition is not good for our study. Now, when you refer to the Encyclopedia Britannica, right, in there, animal behavior is defined as everything animals do, including movements and other activities and underlying mental processes. That is how the Encyclopedia Britannica defines it. Then Biology Online, a very famous internet learning platform. According to the Biology Online, animal behavior is how animals move in their environment, how they interact socially, social behavior, how they learn about the environment, and how an animal might achieve cognitive understandings. Cognitive understandings, right? And then, but for our study, we will define, for our purpose, we will define animal behavior as an externally observable response shown by an animal to a specific stimulus or a situation. යම් කිසි විශේෂිත උත්තේජයකට හෝ අවස්ථාවකට අනුකූල වන පරිදි සතුන් විසින් පෙන්눔 කරන බාහිරව නිරූපණය වන හැසිරීමේ වෙනසක්. ඒකට තමයි සත්වචර්යාව කියලා කියන්නේ. Right? So, like I said, let's use this particular definition throughout this course unit. Animal behavior is an externally observable response shown by an animal to a specific stimulus or situation. Now, these are quite new words. Stimulus, externally observable response means what we can see. Now, I'll show you some examples. Now, here what you see is a buffalo running away from a lion. Do you see this? Hello? Do you see this? Do you see this photograph?
Yes, sir.
Okay.
Yes, sir.
Yeah. What you see is a buffalo running away and the lion is advancing towards the buffalo. So for the buffalo to run away, the stimulus is the lion. So the buffalo's behavior is running away. That is its response. Now, on the other hand, the buffalo can be the stimulus to the lion, right? That is how, because now buffalo is the meat for the lion, buffalo is the food for lion. So the lion should get the food. Therefore, buffalo is the stimulus to the lion. And the lion's behavior then is approaching or pouncing at the buffalo. It works both ways. Whatever it is, what we see, there are responses. For the response to see, there is a stimulus. Stimulus, stimuli. And example number 2, when two dogs meet, you very often have seen this. When two, stranger birds meet, what they do is that they gaze at each other and then sneer at each other, like that. That's what they do. So each dog serves as the stimulus to the other one. Now, the black one is the stimulus to the white one. Similarly, the white one is the stimulus to the black one. So the stimulus is the sight of the dog and the response is rolling at each other. So you see, animal behavior is an externally observable response shown by an animal to a specific stimulus or situation. Now, there is a very big field in biology known as ethology. Now, ethology, not only ethology, there are many other fields. So, for example, endocrinology. That area studies about the hormones of animals, right? Then ecology studies the interactions between animals, plant, organisms and their environment. That is ecology, right? So likewise, there are many different fields, many areas, microbiology, and then zoology. So everything comes under the umbrella of biology. Now, one sub-area coming under biology is ethology. In ethology, we particularly study about the behavior of animals. Therefore, we have to learn what is meant by ethology. Now, ethology, therefore, is a branch of biology dealing with the scientific study of animal behavior under natural conditions and viewing behavior as an evolutionary adaptive trait. Now, this is what we do under ethology. Now, actually, we are learning ethology, animal behavior. We learn it scientifically, right? So, we are learning now ethology. Now, as always, it is always best to find out the origin of the, whenever we come across with a new word. Now, ethology, it has a Greek origin, right? Now, when we consider about the origin of any word, that is what you call etymology. Now, the etymology of ethology, when we consider that, right? Now, this has a Greek origin. According to, though we use ethology today, earlier, long time ago, according to Greek language, any behavior, whatever, is known as ethos. Then logia, ethos logia. Then gradually it converted into ethology in English language. So the first person to use this word in biology is Wheeler. He is an American myrmecologist. Now, the myrmecologist is a scientist who studies about, insects and spiders, etc. Myrmecologist. So I have very briefly given you the ethology course content in these slides. There is no point of describing about these things at this time, right? We'll learn about the basic behavioral patterns and we will learn about learning. learning, right? Then the role of hormones in behavior, how the hormones serve in behavioral changes. Then animal senses, we learn about animal communication, how animals communicate with each other. Then we will learn about biological rhythms such as migration, particularly the bird migration, why the birds migrate. It's a kind of a behavior. And then hibernation, right? Hibernation during the winter season. Animals sleep. Animals like bear and some other animals sleep. They sleep continuously for nearly 3 months. That's hibernation. And we're also going to learn about biological clocks. And then another interesting aspect, sexual behavior, sexual selection, mating systems, etc. And then aggression, foraging behavior, evolution of behavior, so on and so forth. So that's why I told you this is a very, very interesting course unit. And these are the learning outcomes, just simple things, right? Okay. So I'll tell you a brief history of ethology, right? We'll go back to the history of this ethology. Now, according to the current records, it is evident that the first records of the animal behavior made by the Cro-Magnon people. You remember the Cro-Magnons? They lived about 10,000 years ago, right? They lived in caves in Europe. And those days, now people did not know how to write. No one knew. But today we know how to write. Yes, but those days there was no a thing called, writings. But they knew how to paint. The paints were produced from various different things. For example, charcoal. We all know that, no? And then there are different, clay types that have different colors. So they use clay, and then plant extract, then bark extract, so on and so forth. They knew how to make colors. Okay. They also knew how to make small paint brushes. So using the paint brushes, they painted what they saw in their surrounding environment. Now I am showing you some of their paintings still preserved on those Cro-Magnon caves in France. I told you, I remember. Now the Cro-Magnon is a kind of an area, a rural area in France. Right. Now these are some of their paintings. You see a buffalo. Can you identify them? The buffalo? Then another buffalo. Don't think that there are only buffaloes in their time, right? There are many other animals as well. Now I'm showing you only a few of them. So they are regarded as the first human form that observed the animal behavior, recorded observations. And then by the time of Aristotle, people knew how to write, of course. And those days, they didn't have papers. Instead of that, what they used were the papyrus leaves. Now I am showing you here a papyrus plant. Make a look at දැන් නම් ඔයගොල්ලන්ගේ හඳහන එහෙම හඳහනක් තියෙනවනේ හැම කෙනෙකුටම නේ තියෙනවනේ නේද හඳහන දැන් ඔය හඳහන ලියලා තියෙන්නේ මේ පොඩි පොතකනේ දැන් අපි චූටි කාලේ අපේ හඳහන් ලිව්වේ තල්කොලේ රෝල් කරලා තියෙන්නේ ඒක ඊට අර පන් හිඳකින් ලියනවා මොකද්ද පූරකින් ඊට පස්සේ ඒක බලන්න ඕන වෙච්ච වෙලාවේදී තල්කොලේ කළු මැදලා තමයි ඒකේ අකුරු බලන්නේ. So likewise, papyrus is a kind of leaves that could be used for writing. and they knew how to write. They knew letters. By the time of Aristotle, the people knew how to write. So Aristotle was a kind of a great philosopher. So he wrote, he observed animal behavior, what animals did, and then he wrote those behaviors on papyrus leaves, right? So therefore, Aristotle is regarded as the person who made first written records on animal behavior. Nevertheless, he made a kind of an error, right? He made his own interpretations. He gave explanations for those behavior as well, but the explanations were made in terms of human feelings. Okay, do you know what I say? What I mean, right? Now, this concept is what you call anthropomorphic views or anthropomorphism. Anthropomorphism. Now, while I speak, now you can read the note as well, right? Now you see here a man, right? Now a dog hugs the man, and the man hugs the dog. You know, when you come home, I'm sure you all have dogs at home. Then immediately upon your arrival, the dogs immediately after seeing you, begins to wag the tail. Then this particular behavior, the tail wagging behavior of the dog, can be explained as love. Love is a kind of feeling we have. We don't know if the dogs really have that feeling. Reason is, dog's brain and our brain, they are different, right? They are different. The brains are different. You know, the number of nerve cells, for example, different. Now, for example, in our brain, you know, the forehead area, the cerebrum, much bigger. But in the dogs, that is not that bigger. Means we can remember so many things, but the dogs cannot, right? So the brain functioning, the brain activities are different. So we really cannot tell if the dog or any other animal has the same kind of feelings that we have. Do you understand? But Aristotle made that particular error. He explained the animal behavior, the behavior of other animals, in terms of human ways. Now, this is what you call the anthropomorphism. Attributing animal behavior, attributing human behavior or characteristics and perceptions to describe and explain the behavior of other animals and non-human entities. ඒකට තමයි කියන්නේ anthropomorphism. මේකට සිංහලෙන් කියනවා මනුෂ්‍යයාගේ තත්ත්වය ආරෝපණය කිරීම හෙවත් මනුස්සත්වාරෝපණය කියලා. Yeah, I read the message. Yes, මේක ෆිල්ම් එකක මේ ඉන්ටර්නෙට් එකෙන් ගත්ත එකක්. මම මේ ෆිල්ම් එක බලලා තියෙනවා. මේ ෆිල්ම් එකේ නම A Dog's Journey. It's a beautiful film, a family film. A Dog's Journey. මෙයාගේ නම Dennis Quaid, මේ actorගේ නම. I'm a huge film fan, right? I have a huge film collection at home, right? You see, ඉතින් අර මනුස්සයාගේ ඇතිවෙන හැඟීම් ඒ විදිහටම සතුන්ටයි පරිසරයේ තියෙන දේවල් වලටයි තියෙනවයි කියලා හිතාගෙන ඒවාගේ ස්වභාවයන් විස්තර කරන එකට තමයි අපි ඔය ඇන්थ्रोपोमॉर्फिज्म ඒවත් මනුස්සත්වාරෝපණය කියලා හඳුන්වන්නේ. සමහරවිට ඔයගොල්ලෝ අහලා ඇති මෙන්න මේක describing a rushing river as angry river. The river was very angry. You have read those things in books, haven't you? Another example. Now, usually people, talk about aliens, right? Now, this is Steven Spielberg's E.T. E.T. එකේ ඉන්න E.T. තමයි extraterrestrial කියන එකේ නම. හරි අහිංසකෙක් කෙනෙක්. එයාගේ ඇඟිල්ල කෙළවරේ රතු පාටයි. ලයිට් එකක් වගේ දිනනවා. right? ඒක මම ගොඩක් කාලයකට කලින් මේ ෆිල්ම් එක බැලුවා. ඉතින් දැන් now when we describe aliens, I don't know whether there are aliens or not. We really don't know about that, right? Maybe all these things, all these stories are quite fake. But whenever people describe about, aliens, they always tell, well, aliens have 2 eyes, a mouth, a nose, but the eyes are bigger, so on. And human-like body. In addition, the aliens speak English as well, right? So this is again anthropomorphism. අපේ attributes වෙනින් දේවල් වලට තියෙනවා කියලා සලකන එකට තමයි මේ anthropomorphism කියලා කියන්නේ. And this anthropomorphic views prevailed for a long time because Aristotle was a very important philosopher and no one challenged his ideas. And then the next person, when we go along the history of ethology, comes is the person John Ray. John Ray, he was a British naturalist. Now, he told that the nest construction behavior of birds is innate. පොතක ලියාගන්න ළඟ තියෙනවා නම් innate කියලා කියන්නේ සහජ කියන එක. Instinctive, සහජ. ඒක සහජයෙන්ම නැහැ කියනවා. Now, have you seen these kind of bird nests? Have you seen this kind of, do we have any person who has seen bird nests like this? And these are very common in the dry zone in the country. බඩු කුරුළු කූඩ කියන එක අහලා තියෙනවද? Hello?
ඔව් සර් අහලා තියෙනවා.
Okay,
Yes,
fine.
sir.
Yeah. You see, now, commonly these are බඩු කුරුළු කූඩ, weaver birds nests, right? Nevertheless, these nests belong to several weaver bird species. You see, the nest shapes are different. Now, no one teaches the weaver birds to make their nests. Do you understand? No one teaches them. The parental birds do not teach the young bird, look, this is how the nest is made. It is not so. When they grow, they know how to do that. Therefore, this nest construction behavior is innate. And the other thing he observed was that the nest shapes are different among different bird species. Therefore, by looking at the nest shape, the bird species could be identified. Though these things are simple to us today, about 300, 400 years ago, these were huge discoveries. Then comes to another important person, Charles Darwin. You are very well aware about Charles Darwin. Now, he is the father of the theory of natural selection. Now, if you remember what Charles Darwin said, he says that the beneficial characteristics, body characteristics, the traits are selected by nature. That is what you call the natural selection, and then would be passed to the next generation by natural selection, right? So now Darwin says, not only that, good behaviors are also selected by nature. Bad behaviors are, removed. Good behaviors are selected and then passed into future generation. That is what Darwin said. Same as adaptive traits are naturally selected, adaptive behavioral patterns are also naturally selected and transmit to future generations. And therefore, now he says that the behavior is heritable, inherited. That is his contribution. Now, for example, there is a particular lizard in Caribbean islands, right? Now this lizard is known as Anolis. Anolis. It's also known as green lizard because it is somewhat, normally it is green in color, but it has a color changing ability. It can blend with the environment colors. That is what you call camouflage, right? But usually it is green in color. Now, in the neck region, there is a kind of a pouch. Now, when this Anolis, the lizard, is startled by Unham, immediately what happens is that the neck pouch, enlarges. ඒ වගේම මේක රතු පාටයි. දැන් ඔන්න හතුරෙක් ඉස්සරහින් ඉන්නවා. දැන් මම ලිසඩ් කියලා හිතන්නකො. දැන් මගේ උස්සලා බලනකොට මේ එක පාට බැලුමක් වගේ රතු පාට එකක් පිම්බෙනවා. So the enemy would become afraid of me, isn't it? මේක පාට රතු පාට ලොකු එකක් ආවම so the enemy most probably will run away. So by showing this behavior, my survival is ensured, isn't it? My survival is ensured. I will not become a prey to that enemy. So I will be saved in the environment. So this behavior, good behavior, is passed to my baby lizards, and they will pass that good behavior to their baby lizards as well. Likewise, this behavior is inherited. And then another person, Lloyd Morgan, he was a British ethologist. He also a psychologist, right? Now, he explained the behavior in natural terms. For that, well, until Morgan's time or until Darwin's time, people have been attempting to interpret the behavioral patterns of other animals according to how we feel. අර මනුස්සත්වාරෝපණය කියන එක දිගටම පරිහරණය වෙමින් ආව මහා කාලයක්. Now it was Morgan who first tried to say, well, explaining the animal behavior using anthropomorphic views is not right. That is because our brains are different. Now, for example, imagine that there is a fly. Can you see this? Okay, imagine this one is a fly. So whenever I take my hand to squash it like this, before I bring my hand, the fly flies away. So one can tell, well, the fly is afraid of me. M can pull one. ඒ මැස්ස මට බයයි ගියා කියන එක මැස්ස බය වුණා මට. ඒ මොන බය කියන එක කාට ඇති වෙච්ච අදහසක්ද? මැස්සටද මටද? මම ඒක මැස්සගේ චර්යාවනේ එක්ස්ප්ලেইন කරන්න බය කියන වචනේ පාවිච්චි කරේ. ඇත්තටම මැස්සට බය කියන එකක් ඇති වුණාද නැද්ද කියන එක කවුද දන්නේ? No one knows. Because the insect brain is so tiny and so very simple. Ours is extremely complex, right? So what we conceive, what we feel to our brain will not be felt the same way in the insect's body. We cannot say that. ඒක තමයි මම මේ කියන්නේ anthropomorphism කියලා. දැන් Lloyd Morgan හැදුවේ ඔය anthropomorphism කියන එක පාවිච්චි කළ යුතු නැහැ කියලා කියන්නේ. මෙන්න මේකට එයා උපයෝගී කරගත්ත බොහෝම චිරක් කාලයක් තිස්සේ මිනිස් පිළිගත්ත එක්තරා ග්‍රීක දර්ශනවාදයක්. ඒ තමයි Occam's razor කියලා කියන්නේ. Occam's razor කියන එකෙන් කියන්නේ when there are simple as well as complex explanation for an occurrence, always choose the simpler one. හරිනේ ඒක. සරල දේවලුයි සංකීර්ණ දේවලුයි කියනකොට වඩා හොඳ ඇත්තටම සරල කෑම. සරල දේවල්. උදාහරණයක් විදියට අපි හිතමුකෝ. This is how I feel. අපි හිතමුකෝ ස්තම්බලා හරි කිරි හොදි හදලා සම්බෝලයක් කට දාන්න හදලා මිරිස් බැද්දලා කරෝල කෑල්ලක් මොනවද මේ කට්ට කරෝල කෑල්ලක් එහෙම බැදලා තිබුත් නුම්බර එකයි. That's very simple. And there is another meal which is so very complex in the sense that there are udin, the pudding, fry කරපුවාද ඊට පස්සේ chili sauce දාපුවාද ඊට පස්සේ tomato sauce දාපුවා අරකයි මේකයි දාලා එක අච්චාරුවක් කරපු එකකුත් තියෙනවා. Of these two, I always go for the simpler one. Occam's razor fall over, right? So that is what the Occam's razor says. When there are two alternative, equally good alternative hypotheses, always select the simple one. Then, massage behavior එක මම එක සිංහලෙන් කියන්නම්කෝ massage behavior එක දැන් explain කරන්න පුළුවන් වෙන්නේ මෙහෙමයි. දැන් ඔන්න මම මේක රූපයක් ගන්න. චුට්ටක් ඉන්න මම මගේ මේ annotate කරන පෑන අරන් ඉන්න. So this is my computer writing pen, right? සාමාන්‍ය පෑන නෙමෙයි මේක. So let me share the whiteboard now. Can you all see the whiteboard?
Yes, sir. You can see.
Okay, okay. Now I'm going to draw something. I'm going to draw an insect, right? So this is the insect's eye and head, and this is the thorax area. This is the abdomen, and these are its legs. And to the thorax area, there are wings attached. And insect's brain is this one. And there are muscles attached to the wings. Now this is our hand. Now we use the word afraid. We say that the insect is very much afraid of us. Now this afraid, this thing is our concept. No, I mean insect very, very simple. Okay, now the simplest way of explaining this behavior is this. Now the insect, the fly, it has eyes, no? So immediately after seeing our eye, now we can use the word see, because in the insect's eye an image of our hand forms. So what happens is that immediately after the image is formed, then we know that there are nerves connected to the brain from the eye. Like we also have an optic nerve. So the nerve impulse will be carried about the hand to the brain. Now next what happens is that the nerve impulse is carried to the muscle, wing muscle. So the wings contract. Bird flies. That is the simplest explanation that we can offer for this. That's the simplest. Because this much we know. We know that the nerve impulses are transmitted along nerves, and the muscles are activated by nerve impulses, and as a result of the muscle activation, the wings beat. So the fly flies. Do you understand? Yes or no? So we have two concepts. Afraid versus simplest neural mechanism. Afraid, this is a human conception. It's a very complex thing that occur in our brain. Now the simplest neural mechanism I just explained to you. Now of these two, we, according to the Occam's razor, we should select the simplest neural mechanism. That is what Occam's razor says. That is what Morgan proposed. Do you understand? Hello?
Yes, sir.
Understood.
Understood, right. So when there are simple as well as complex explanation for an occurrence, always choose the simpler one. It is now this one, this Occam's razor, is an ancient Greek philosophical principle, right? Then comes another person, Dutch a bird scientist, ornithologist, also a biologist, by the name Nico Tinbergen, Nicolas Tinbergen, Nico Tinbergen, commonly known as Nico Tinbergen. Then he said, he contributed that some animal and human behavioral patterns are both innate and learned. Now, you know, we told earlier that animal behavioral patterns are innate. No, he said not only innate, some animal behavioral patterns are learned as well. Now, for example, we learn. Similarly, animals also learn. Right? We learn about those things when we learn learning, right? And also, he said innate and learning. Now, I am showing you two innate behavioral patterns. Now, for example, the birds during the winter. The birds in the who live in the temperate areas, for example, in Siberia, in Sweden, England, etc., they migrate to warmer countries. And after the winter season is over there, they know somehow that the winter season is over, they fly back. This annually happens. No one has told them, okay, this is the time for you to migrate. So this is innate, right? The other example, the baby sea turtles, right? Now we have a baby sea turtle hatchery somewhere in down south. Probably you might have gone there. So what they do is that they collect the turtle eggs from the beach, take them to the hatchery, and then incubate them until the babies come out, and then let the babies to grow until they are this big, and then they are released. Why they collect the eggs is that because people collect the eggs for their consumption. That is it. This is also innate behavior. So immediately upon them placing on the beach, then they will gradually crawl into the sea, and then they swim and then go. No one knows what happens after that, but they are, the survival during the young period is ensured by the good people there, right? And then there another example I'm showing you here is, as far as the birds are concerned. Now you see, චූටි බිත්තර වගේ තියෙන හැබැයි චූටි බිත්තර තියෙනකොට මේ කුරුල්ලෝ වැඩිපුරම රකින්නේ ලොකු බිත්තර. මේකට අපි කියනවා සුපර් නෝමල් ස්ටිමියුලයි කියලා එකක්. හරි. ඉතින් ඒක මේ කවුරුවත් කියලා දීලා තියෙන දෙයක් නෙමෙයි. ඒකත් ඇවිල්ලා innate behavior එකක්. මේක. ඉතින් why do they do that? The background was explained by this person, Nico Tinbergen. Obviously, people have seen those things for a long time, but it was Nico Tinbergen who explained it for the very first time, right? So he contributed that some animal and human behavioral patterns are both innate and learned. Also found that birds prefer to brood eggs with exaggerated markings in the form of size, spots, and color. Based on this, he said some animals respond to supernormal stimuli than to normal stimuli. සත්තු ලොකු දේවල් වලට තමයි රුචි. මේක තමයි supernormal stimuli කියන එකෙන් කියන්නේ. We are also same. Then another person, Konrad Lorenz. He is known as the founder of the modern ethology. He's an Austrian, not Australian, Austrian. Austria is in Europe, right? Now one of the major contribution of Lorenz is that he discovered a particular learning pattern, learning mode of animals. That is what you call imprint. I tell you what he did anyway, right? Now, Lorenz collected goose eggs. Goose children tara pathu ginu. he collected the goose eggs. Now, he separated the eggs into two batches, two groups. So he brought one set of eggs home and then put it under in an incubator, right? And then looked after them. And the other batch, other egg set, was kept with the mother, right? So after the incubation period, now the babies come out. Now from the eggs that came that were incubated by Lawrence, the babies came out. The first person they saw was Lawrence. In the other case, the first person the baby saw was their mother. Understand? So those the babies, they are always followed the mother, and this time the babies always followed Lawrence because they regarded Lawrence as their mother. Now this particular behavior is what you call imprinting. During a very sensitive stage of life, animals learn to follow what they first see. That is what you call imprinting. මේකට කියන ගතිචාරය කියලා කියන imprinting. නෑ. මේවා සිංහල වචන මතක තියාගන්න එපා ළමයි මේ මෙච්චර වැදගත් වෙන්නේ නැති වෙයි. Right? Imprinting. Right? Imprinting. It's a very unique contribution made by an ethologist, made by any ethologist to the field of ethology. And then another person, Carl von Frisch. He is a German-Austrian ethologist, right? Now, he studied the behavior of insects, basically insect behavior, and their sensory physiology. One of his famous discoveries was the honeybee communication. Honeybee communication. There is a full lecture on honeybee communication in this course unit. We'll learn about that. Now, honeybees, you know, they communicate. They cannot talk like we do, right? But they have their own language. And this language is their behavior, right? Now, for example, if a bee locates upon scouting for, you know, the flowers, nectar, the bee sees some, you know, flowers, nearby flowers, and then he comes to the beehive and then shows this round dance. Now this particular communication pattern indicates, go and search. The flowers are very, very close, very close, less than 100 meters. And that is the message given. But if the flower source is far away, then the bees would show another type of dance. ඔන්න මෙහෙම එනවා ඇවිල්ලා පස්ස නටෝ මේ පැත්තට යනවා ගිහිල්ලා ආයේ මේ පැත්තෙන් එනවා ආයේ මේක දිගේ ඔහොම යනවා ආයේ මේ පැත්තෙන් එනවා ආයේ මේක දිගේ මෙහෙම ගිහිල්ලා මෙහෙම එන්න ඕන්න ඔහොම එකක් කරනවා මේකට කියන්නේ waggle dance කියලා waggle dance. Now this indicates, well, the flower source is in a distant place, right? And the distance is more than 100 meters, perhaps 1 kilometer away. By this straight stretch, he indicates the direction as well. So for this discovery, right, it is said that one fish spent nearly 30 years observing the bee behavior, right? So it's another very important contribution. So you noted for his studies on insect behavior and sensory physiology, his most famous discovery was that honeybees communicate by waggle dancing. And some other methods. So in 1970, sorry, I have to remove this annotation. So in 1973, Lawrence, Frisch, and Tinbergen together, they shared one of the most prestigious prizes in science, Nobel Prize. And then that is about the brief history. Not only those people, there are many other people contributed for the field of ethology. Now I am also contributing now because perhaps I am now making future ethologists. Who knows? So I have read books, gathered information. Now I am delivering that information to you with a view that you will become future ethologists. Who knows? So now we are going to have a brief understanding about the behavior in terms of evolution. A few sentences. Just read these sentences. Animals increase their chance of survival by responding to changes in the environment. Now, for example, this deer, upon seeing its enemy, it runs away. Now, its response is running away. If it did not run, this will become the food for the tiger. If it survives, it can reproduce, make babies. Now in evolution, you learned that the genes are passed from the parents to the baby. So their characters would be passed. That is to say that their fitness would go up. So those that survive have a great chance of raising offspring and passing their alleles to the next generation. So that is the advantage of behavior. Good behaviors always enhance the survival of animals. By doing so, their fitness would be increased. Fitness may fitness the number of progeny that they can produce during their lifetime. So now based on this, scientists have identified some 4 major behavioral patterns. They are known as kinesis, and then taxis, reflexes, and fixed action patterns. So I'm going to describe very briefly about each one of these. So let's learn about the kinesis first. Let's look at this. Now there is a definition for kinesis. Plural ekat mandila tina kinesis kila kiyanne. Right. Now kinesis is a non-directional response of a whole animal in which the rate of movements is related to the intensity of the stimulus. Like Singaling can nishchita dishavakin torava pavatina uttejayakata satun visin dakwana labana chalanayan. Chalanayan කියන චර්යාව තමයි. නිශ්චිත දිශාවකින් තොරව මෙන්න මේ වචනය හරි වැදගත් වෙනවා. Annotate non-directional response කියන එක. හරිම වැදගත්. Rate of movement is related to the intensity of the stimulus. මෙන්න මේක හරිම වැදගත් වෙනවා. මෙන්න මේකත් වැදගත් වෙනවා. The whole animal is moving. Do you understand this? නිශ්චිත දිශාවකින් තොරව පැමිණෙන උත්තේජයකට සතුන් විසින් දක්වනු ලබන හැසිරීම. Kinesis is the non-directional response of the whole animal in which the rate of movement is related to the intensity of the stimulus. Now I'll tell you as an example. Most of you, I'm sure, have seen these small animals. These are known as these animals are known as woodlice. In Sinhala, we call it mirisatya. Sachini, have you seen a mirisatya?
No, sir. Unfortunately not.
No. Dirsha?
Yes, sir.
You have?
Yes, sir.
Okay. චූටි සත්තු ජාතියක්. හරිද? ඒ එහෙම නැත්නම් මේ පැටුණු කොට තියෙන ලී කොට වල දිලා යන පොත්ත ASCII තමයි පොත්ත ඉස්සුවාම මුන් ඉන්නවා සාමාන්‍යයෙන්. පුරිසටය තමයි කියලා කියන්නේ. Okay. Now this particular it's an arthropod, right? Now it prefers to live in dark and moist, damp places. So what we do now, if we collect few of them and place in two petri dishes, one petri dish which is dry and the other petri dish somewhat damp. Now as far as the dry petri dish is concerned, immediately after we put this little guy, what it does is that he moves here and there very, very fast, very, very fast. Now it is, the dryness is everywhere, isn't it? There is no direction, right? Here in this damp one, again, there is no any direction. But what you see is that the movement is somewhat slow. Compare this one with this one. So the animal moves, that's its response to a particular stimulus, and the stimulus is dampness, dry or wet, right? So these kind of behaviors are known as kinesis. These are usually shown by very simple animals. Kinesis. Now we can test this kinesis in the laboratory. What we do is that we take a petri dish, as I have done in here, we divide the petri dish into 4 compartments. Right? In 2 compartments we place cotton wool කපුගුලි දෙකක් තියලා ඊට පස්සේ ඒක තෙමනවා. එතකොට අනිත් පැත්තට අපි මේකේ දානවා calcium chloride. Calcium chloride කියලා කියන්නේ ජලය අවශෝෂණය කරගන්න එකත් ජල වාෂ්ප. නිසා now this side of the petri dish remains dry, this side of the petri dish remains wet. And after that what we do is that we place a wire mesh. කම්බි දලක් තියෙනවා උඩි. තියලා මේකේ මේ පැත්තෙන් අපි එවනවා directional light එක. මේ පැත්තෙන් light එකක් කියනවා. මේ යටට මම ඇදලා තියෙන විදිය. right? මේ light එකක් කියනවා, මේ පැත්තෙන් light එවන්නේ නැහැ. ඒතර දැන් මේකේ එක පැත්තක් එළිය තියෙනවා, වියලි පැත්ත වෙනවා. එතකොට අනිත් පැත්ත තෙතයි, හැබැයි dark. මොකද අපි ඒක dark කරනවා. හරි? මේ පැත්ත ඔක්කොම එහෙම තමයි. දැන් මේ පැත්තට අපි this half is kept damp with moist cotton wool. Moist cotton wool. මේ පැත්ත තෙත කරලා තියෙනවා. Light and dark, light and damp, dark and damp. අඳුරුයි තෙතයි ආලෝකමත් තෙතයි අඳුරුයි තෙතයි නේ. හරි එහෙම තමයි. හරි. මේක ආලෝකමත් really ආලෝකමත් තෙත. Now what we do is that after that we place these myristotia, those little guys in 4 corners of this one, and then allow them to settle for a while. And after that what we see is that most of them will settle in these dark, damp areas. We can test this in the laboratory. Perhaps I will design an experiment. And the next type of basic behavioral pattern is what you call taxis. You all have seen this in the night. Unfortunately, these days it is very hard to find electricity, right? Now, but this you always see, right? In the night, when a bulb is lit, insects would attract to that. But on the other hand, Karapotto will run away. Have you seen this? උස්සේ රැට ගිහලා ලයිට් එක දැම්ම ගමන්ම ඔය මේෂවල උඩ එහෙම කරපොත්තු කොහේද කියලා නෑ පට ගාලා දුවනවා. Have you seen this? Sachini?
Yes, sir.
Yeah. So we all have seen that, right? We all have seen that. Now this this kind of particular behavior is what you call kinesis. Now, taxis. Now, compared to kinesis, now this has a particular direction. Now, light has a direction. So, some animals move towards a light or move away from the light. A taxis is therefore a movement of a whole organism in response to a direction, to the direction of the stimulus. යම් කිසි දිශාවක් සහිත උත්තේජයකට සතුන් විසින් දක්වන චලනයන් නැත්නම් චර්යාවන් තමයි අපි හඳුන්වන්නේ taxis කියලා. Taxis. Sometimes some animals move towards the stimulus or away, like the Caraputta and Meruo fly towards the light. Caraputto run away from the light. So Caraputto show negative phototaxism. Meruo show positive phototaxism. Why I use photo? This is light. And sometimes animals move towards chemicals as well. Then it is chemotaxis. Sometimes to heat, that is thermotaxis. Now, for example, Kudallo. When we walk in a forest or jungle or in a wet, damp place, you know, those Kudallo will run to you. Have you noticed that? So they stimulate to the heat, body heat, your body heat, right? So depending on the stimulus, taxis keneke venas karනවා. If it is chemical, then it is chemotaxism. If it is light, then it is phototaxism. If it is magnetic field, then it is magnetotaxism. Heat, thermotaxism, so on. Sometimes hydrotaxism, right? So positive taxism as well as negative taxism can be seen. Now, I have given you 3 examples in here, right? Now, this is a very common thing. Whenever there is sugar, right, you will see after a few hours, you know, ants will make a queue. That is that what we call an ant trail. So now they show positive chemotaxism. Now, sugar is a kind of a chemical, isn't it? So to which the insects are attracted. Now this is chemotaxism. The entire insect is attracted, not a part of it. Another one, chlamydomonas. Have you heard about chlamydomonas? Kalindu, have you heard about chlamydomonas?
Yes, sir, kind of aware about it.
Yeah, it's a unicellular organism, lives in water, right? It can move at the same time. It can, you know, make its own food. It can photosynthesize, right? So chlamydomonas usually at night swims towards light, which is phototaxis, positive phototaxis. Now, there is another very interesting example I have given you in here. There's a particular moth known as the silkworm moth. Its scientific name is Bombyx morii. Yes, Bombyx morii. We draw. Bombyx, M-O-R-I, Bombyx morii. That's the scientific name of the silkworm moth. Now, only the male can, they have the antenna. They have highly developed antenna. Feathery antenna. Now, this is the girl, the female, right? Boy, the male, the female. Now, during the breeding season, what happens is that the I'm sorry, I used the wrong word. They don't have a breeding season. When they mature, they always breed, right? They don't have breeding seasons. Now, this girl really cannot fly long areas. She always stays on the cotton plant. The mature one releases from her abdominal region, the tip of the abdomen, kind of a chemical, and that chemical is known as bombicol. Bombicol. ඒකේ නම ඒක තමයි රසායනික වශයෙන් නම දීලා තියෙන්නේ bombicol. Bombicol. Right? Now, this is a volatile substance, Vaspacine. Since it is volatile, now it is dispersed into the air and carried into vast stretches, perhaps 2-3 kilometers away. A single molecule of bombicol is enough to stimulate a buoy. So these buoys have these feathery antennas. The surface area is very high, so that it is possible that they can somehow catch one of those, get one of those bombicol molecules that are carried by the winds. So the insect activates and it becomes airborne, and then right, and then he focuses to the direction to which the smell comes and then flies, and then eventually it locates the female. Interesting, isn't it? So this is positive chemotaxis, because the male flew towards the female. That is taxism. Well, now the third type is what you call the reflexes. උත්තේජය තියෙනවා, හැබැයි උත්තේජයට මුළු ජීවියාම නෙමෙයි චලනය වෙන්නේ, ජීවියාගේ කොටසක්. මේකට මේ මධ්‍ය ස්නායු පද්ධතියේ සම්බන්ධතාවයක් නැහැ. ප්‍රතික අහලා තියෙනවනේ ප්‍රතික්‍රියා ගැන. Have you heard about these things? මම මේ ඔයගොල්ලන්ට පොඩ්ඩක් මේ වෙලාවේ හොඳ නිසා තමයි මම මේ ෆොටෝග්‍රාෆ් එක දාලා තියෙන්නේ. ડોක්ටර් කෙනෙක්, he is checking the knee-jerk reflex of a patient. Right? Now the doctor says that the patient sit on a bench, right? කකුලක් උඩින් කකුලක් දානවා වාඩි වෙන්නේ කියලා මෙන්න මේ ධනිස්සට යටින් පොඩි තියෙනවා මේ ligament එකක්. I cannot show you that, right? So the doctor has a kind of rubber hammer, small rubber hammer, and the doctor, hits it. Not that hard, right? So immediately, without any thinking, the leg jerks. These kind of activities are behaviors are what you call the reflexes. These are involuntary. It happens without any thinking, conciseness, right? A part of the body, only a part of the body works. I'm showing you another example. In this example, what we see is that a hot pan on a fire, without thinking, if we touch it, immediately what we do is that we drop it. And this is a kind of a behavior. And for this behavior, there is no any thinking part. So reflex actions is a rapid stereotype. මෙතන ගැහුවොත් එකම දේ නැවත වෙනවා. Stereotype කියලා කියන්නේ ඒක නොවෙනස් වෙන. Stereotype and involuntary movement of any organ of body part for a particular stimuli. I'll tell you some other examples as well. චූටි බබාලා දැකලා ඉතින් මේ චූටි බබාලා ඔයගොල්ලන් කාලේ මතක නැහැ. නමුත් small babies, right? A baby just being born. If the baby is brought to the mother's breast, right? And the baby somehow somehow finds the teat. Then begins to suck. Make a reflex. This is a reflex. This is a reflex. Another example. So, Now, what happens here is that immediately after the teeth or whatever touches the baby's, the roof of the upper jaw, a kind of a stimulation. It's a kind of a stimulation. So the baby immediately begins to, you understand? Now, these kind of activities I'm talking of, behaviors, reflexes. So without thinking, animals show some behaviors, and they are known as, reflexes. Even now we show reflexes. And object that's a behavior. That's a behavior, and it's a reflex behavior. Not the entire body is taken away, only a part of it. Reflex. So, oh yeah, that's all I have to tell you in today's lecture. That's all I have to tell you.